Hello everyone, DM Gashbad here, and today we are bringing you another game of Warhammer Quest. This is my ongoing campaign with a group of evil-themed warriors called the Louts of Chaos. Here we have those guys real quick. First of all, we have my Barbarian Lief the Legbiter. Lief the Legbiter has got 16 wounds. He has a toughness of 7 thanks to his King Shield of Tilia, which also allows him to ignore one hit during the course of the game once per adventure, and his Warhelm. He has 2 magic swords right now. He has the Ensorcelled Blade, which he's going to use pretty much the entire time. It gives him +1 to hit. He also has a Sword of Malediction, which gives him a chance to negate enemy spellcasters who are in base-to-base contact with him. He has the Stone Icon of Gamaluk, which allows him to go back to full starting wounds once per adventure, and the Ring of Life, which will bring someone else back from the dead. He also has a Rope and a Lucky Charm, which allows him to make 1 reroll once per adventure, and of course he has the Lantern, which makes him the leader. So he's the one that gets to explore new passageways. He also goes first in every round. Speaking of the order of the warriors every round, all the rest of my guys have initiative 3, so I have to determine randomly what order they go in, and this is going to be the order that they are going to be playing in this game. The next will be Hundert Luftballoon, my wizard. Hundert has 3 spells: Heal Wounds, Lightning Bolt, and Confuse. He has an invisibility ring, which is pretty self-explanatory. He also has the Death Stone that allows him to cast a spell for 0 power on the roll of a 3+ once per adventure. Most importantly, he has the Helm of Alcadizzer, which gives him +1 toughness and also acts as another lantern. He has a Hammer of Hargon, which is a bad magic item and he's never going to use it. More importantly, he has a Wizard Staff that allows him to reroll the power score once per adventure and also gives him +1 to toughness but -1 to hit when he's wielding it. He has 2 power stored in that staff and also 5 power all of his own. Next up in the batting order is my Pit Fighter Naughtiness Maximus. Naughtiness Maximus has 13 wounds, he has 5 Heal It potions, and he has Pit Fighter armor on his legs and torso. He has a Pit Flail, which I'll never use, but he also has his Fist Spike. In a previous adventure, the Fist Spike has been enchanted so that now on a to-hit roll of 6, it adds d6 to the damage, which is great for a weapon that has 3 attacks around. He also has a single Knee Spike, which gives him another Strength 2 attack every round. And finally, he has the Chalice of Vigor. Once per adventure, he can cause all the warriors in the party to add an extra d3 damage on the to-hit roll of a 6 for the duration of a combat. Finally, we have Sir Osis of the Liver, my Chaos Warrior. Sir Osis has 10 wounds, but a toughness of 6 thanks to his shield and open helmet. He has an Incense of Healing, which acts as a healing potion. He also has his Mark of Chaos that allows him to reroll 1 dice roll once per adventure. He has 2 Chaos attributes. He has Warp Magic, which allows him to cast the spell Healing Hands once per adventure, and he also has the Arcane Knowledge attribute. On the power score of a 6, you roll a d6. On a 3+, he casts a random spell. On a 1 through 2, he goes stupid and can't do anything for that round. Sir Osis also has the Chaos Artifact Chalice of Night, so every game I roll a d6, and that's how many times I can use the Chalice to automatically hit with an attack. I have rolled up 1 time, so we can do it once this adventure. So those are the Louts of Chaos. Let's find out what my mission is for this game. We take our objective rooms, we shuffle them up, and I draw the Fire Chasm again. Again, that's not the one I wanted. First off, I just played a Fire Chasm adventure last time. Next off, my guys are pretty experienced. I have enough gold to go up to level 2. I wasn't able to do it last round because I wasn't able to actually get to a settlement. And the problem with the Fire Chasm is it's got this bridge that when you try to cross it, you can just die. So for all those reasons, I probably would have preferred a different objective room. But the Warhammer economy being what it is, you take the jobs that you were given, so we roll up a mission on the Fire Chasm objective room chart, and we get Banish the Daemon. So I guess there is a demon that lives in a statue somewhere underground, and it's woken up and causing problems, which I guess is just one of the hazards that you have when you live up north. Each of my warriors has been given a magic sword that can be used to banish the demon by striking the statue that it lives in while it's sleeping. These swords can each be used once in this adventure. They can be used to strike a monster, in which case they automatically hit and automatically kill it, which is real nice, but they're also the only thing that can be used to destroy the statue. To destroy the statue, I have to get to the far side of the Fire Chasm, use the sword on the statue, and then roll a d6. On a 5 or a 6, I've destroyed the statue and I win! If I don't manage to destroy the demon, then all my warriors take 46 damage and we escape out a secret passageway, leaving the demon to go and rampage the surrounding countryside. So reading this objective, it's a little confusing. It sounds a little like I only get one shot at rolling that 5+. If I get the 5+, then I win. If it's a 1, 2, 3, or 4, then I lose, which seems weird because we all have a sword. It could be read as if we're not able to banish the demon, in that all of our swords have been used up and we simply can't do it at any point in the adventure. That's when we take the 46 damage. It could also be that we only get one hero phase to destroy the demon, and if we don't do it then the damage happens and the rest of the stuff. I'm not really sure, but to be safe, I'm gonna try and get the people with rerolls, that being Sir Osis and Lief the Legbiter, to strike the thing so that we can try and reroll our 5+, and hopefully it won't come into play, it won't matter. But if I were to take a guess, I would say that the way it's supposed to be played is that you keep going until you've used up all your swords, and if you haven't killed the demon by the time all your swords are gone, then that's when you take the 46 damage and you lose. So I'm definitely not going to use the swords to kill normal enemies. My guys are pretty tough. I'm not too worried about them. There's really only 2 cards in the deck that I think really are challenging my guys at this point. That's going to be Gorgut and his minions and the D3 Minotaurs. I'm using cards from the Lair of the Orc Lord as well as the basic set. I'm using as many of the cards from the Catacombs of Terror expansion as I have miniatures painted for. I'm also using the cards from the White Dwarf expansion Domain of the Horned Rat. I've also filled in a number of event cards from the random chart in order to make everything about the same proportion as the original boxed set, with the exception of I am removing the Cave-In card because it's terrible. So with all that said and done, we take our objective room and we shuffle it in with 6 other basic dungeon cards. We then deal 6 more cards on top of that pile, and we're ready to begin. We draw our first card. We get a corridor. We deploy our guys like that. We roll a power score of 5. There's nothing to do, so we just explore the next room and we find the dungeon cell. So it's a room, there's going to be monsters in here. So new round, we get a power score of 3 and we move into the room. We draw our event card and we get 3 goblin spears and 6 night goblin archers. The goblin spears go in contact with my guys. The archers get placed as far as possible. Now, I made a mistake here. Because this was a group of monsters that came as a result of an event card because I went into a room, they should have all been in the room. If they came as a result of an unexpected event, when I roll a 1 on the power die, then they can be placed in an adjoining room. So they should have all been in the room. I placed them in the corridor because that was further away. I shouldn't have done that, but it's only making it harder for me, so it's okay. You'll notice 2 of the Night Goblin archers are placed a little bit further forward. That's because they were the ones that are trying to shoot Sir Osis, and so they had to be placed there so they could see him. Anyway, it's a new round, a new power score, and we get a 6, which means that Sir Osis has to make his arcane knowledge check. He gets a 3+, so he gets to cast a random spell, and we actually get a good one this time. We get Fireball, so I get to pick a 2x2 section of squares, and I'm going to go ahead and blast the Goblin Spearman right in front of me, because that's the most I can get. As I said before, he can't actually draw a line of sight to those Night Goblin archers all the way at the back. When all is said and done, he kills 2 of the Goblin Spears, which is a real good start. Continuing with that good start, I roll for the Berserk on my Barbarian Lief the Legbiter, and I get a 6, which means that he now goes up to 2 attacks for this combat. He tries to break his pin so he can use those 2 attacks on a bigger crowd of goblins, but he fails to do so, so he contents himself with just butchering that last goblin spear in front of him. Now it's my wizard's turn, so Hundert Luftballoon moves up and misses the goblin directly in front of him. Again, he is using that staff, so he's -1 to hit, so this isn't really surprising. He'd only get him on a 5 or 6. Now it is time for Naughtiness Maximus, my Pit Fighter. He moves up to those 2 closest night goblins, and he attacks with his Fist Spike. So he's got 3 attacks, but he only manages to wound a single goblin with all those. Still, he does have his Knee Spike, and he manages to kill a goblin with that. Finally, my Chaos Warrior Sir Osis moves up into contact with that lone surviving goblin in the front, and he does manage to hit and just barely kill that guy. He rolls a 1 to the wound, but he only had 1 wound remaining, so that's enough to do the job. It's near the end of the Warrior's phase, and I still have a pile of power for the Wizard to play with, and so I'm going to cast Lightning Bolts, and I'm just going to blast that last goblin in the line there. So all the Goblin Spears are dead. We only have those 3 Goblin Archers. They're only going to hit on a 5+, and sure enough, they don't manage to do any damage to my guys. It's a new round. We get a power score of 5, and we start off with Lief the Legbiter. Leif is too far away to get into contact with those goblins remaining, and there's a couple of his bros in front of him, so he can't get to him regardless. So he's going to take out his throwing axe and just chuck it at one of those goblins. He does miss, though. Hundert also can't get through the Chaos Warrior and Pit Fighter that's in front of him, so he just uses Lightning Bolt, because again, no one's hurt, no need to confuse or heal anybody, so he blasts that goblin in the back and moves back to join Leif. That brings us to Naughtiness Maximus, who moves up and Muay Thais the two goblins to death with his knee spike. That means all the monsters are dead, so we draw a treasure card and we get the Blessed Gem. The Blessed Gem can only be given to the wizard. It allows him to negate any necromantic spell cast on a 4+. It's not fantastic, but I do have a necromancer from the Catacombs of Terror wandering around in the event card deck, so it could come in handy. Sir Osis decides that instead of moving back towards the doorway with Leif and Hundert, he's going to buddy up with Naughtiness Maximus and make sure no one gets surrounded alone and in a different room. My two lanterns are at the doorway, so we can go and check what the next room is in the exploration phase, and we find another corridor. The next round, we get a power score of 4. I'm going to have my guys form up, strength in numbers, and so Hundert and Leif are going to hang out and wait for Naughtiness Maximus and Sir Osis to catch up. Now that we're all together, we get a power score of 4, and we move into the corridor, making sort of a chaos conga line. New round, power score of 5, and we go to the doorway, we explore in the exploration phase, and we find the monster's lair. But before we can go in there, we gotta roll our power score, and we get a power score of 1, which means it's an unexpected event. We draw an event card, and we get a Tomb Guardian. This may be the first monster from the Catacombs of Terror box set that I've managed to draw. He's basically like a tomb guard. I've never fought one of these things before, so I'm excited to see how it goes. They don't have a lot as far as offense goes, but they do have 15 wounds, a toughness of 4, and every round they regenerate d6 hit points. Since it's an unexpected event, I get to roll on the chart for my Pit Fighter to see if this reminds him of something from his old pit fighting days. I don't roll anything that results in either him missing a turn or getting an extra round of attacks, so it's just the normal sequence. We go over to Lief the Legbiter. Leif doesn't go berserk, but he does manage to land a pretty powerful blow on this Tomb Guard, causing 6 points of damage. Since the Tomb Guardian is attacking Sir Osis and no one's attacking Hundert, I'm going to take a risk and I'm not going to use my staff. Instead, I'm going to use that Hammer of Hargon because I want to dump as much damage on this guy as I can. I rolled to hit and I managed to do so. So the Hammer of Hargon allows you to roll as many d6s as you want for your damage dice. But if any of them come up as a 1 or a 2, then you cause no damage. So I'm going to roll 2 dice, just trying to bump up that damage by a little bit. But I managed to roll a 1 and a 6. The 6 would have been real good, but that 1 means that I caused no damage whatsoever. Again, every time I use that, I think I would have been much better off just hitting with my normal sword. So now we're on to Naughtiness Maximus. He hits twice with his fist spike. The first one causes no damage, but the second one hits with a 6, which means I get to roll an extra d6 for damage because it's been enchanted. Still only causes a total of 3 points of damage to the Tomb Guardian, but he does follow that up with an attack from his knee spike, which manages to crack him for another 1. And then we're on to Sir Osis. Sir Osis only has the 1 attack at strength 3, but he still manages to hit and roll max damage. So he does 5 points of damage, and that means that we have done all 15 points of damage to this guy in a single round. No attack for you, no regeneration for you. This guy is dead. Not so scary. For our treasure card, we get the Amulet of Power. So with the Amulet of Power, at any time I can roll a d6. On a 2+, the warrior has +2 strength for the whole turn, which is nice. On a 1, it explodes for d6 damage and is destroyed. That's not bad, I'll take those odds. Naughtiness Maximus can go ahead and pick that up. Moving on to the next round, we get a power score of 3, and we shuffle into the room like that. So because we entered a room, we have to draw an event card, and we get an encounter. I mean, literally, we get the card Encounter. An old dwarf comes in and he hands us a key, which is used in case a portcullis slams behind us. Well, that's great, thanks. But we do have to draw another event card immediately, and this time we get a trap. So, determining randomly, we find out that my Barbarian Lief sets off the trap, and we roll on the chart and find out that he has triggered a pit. He falls into a hole filled with spikes. He takes 7 points of damage and is currently stuck in a pit. We then have to roll another time to see if another event happens immediately after that, and sure enough it does. And that turns out to be a falling block. So in addition to the pit trap, there's also a big rock that drops from the ceiling. It's going to try and fall on Sir Osis's head. He has to make a dodge roll, which fortunately he does. So he skips out of the way, doesn't take any damage, and there's a big block where he used to be standing. And that event requires us to draw yet another event card, and we get the Treasure Trove card. So the Treasure Trove card is a little bit of a weird one. We're going to draw another 2 event cards, bringing us up to a total of 5 cards in just this one round. After we resolve those 2 cards, anyone in the room can roll a d6. On a 6, they find a treasure card. Nice. On a 1, they draw yet another event card. For the additional 2 event cards, we get 2d6 Snotlings and Trip Up. Turns out we get 7 Snotlings, and rolling on the Trip Up chart, we get another pit. This time it's going to affect Hundert Luftballoon. So he also gets dumped into a pit, this time for 9 points of damage. He only starts with 10, so he's got 1 health remaining, and of course he's stuck in a pit. This is not an unexpected event, so Naughtiness Maximus can't make his reaction chart, so doesn't get a free round of attacks on the Snotlings. Not that he's ever managed to do that anyway. The Snotlings do, however, get an immediate attack. I draw a warrior card to find out who they're trying to gang up on. They're trying to gang up on Naughtiness Maximus. Unfortunately, only one of them can actually get in base-to-base contact with him. The rest of them surround Sir Osis. The one Snotling misses Naughtiness Maximus, but I've got 5 Snotlings surrounding Sir Osis, which means that they get +4 to hit and +4 damage. They do hit, but they roll a 1 for damage, so even with all those Snotlings crawling through his armor and chewing and biting on his toes and fingers, they only manage to do 1 point of damage to him. Okay, so that was 6 cards in just that one room. My guys went from being totally healthy to being pretty hurt. The good news is I'm not terribly worried about these Snotlings. But the first order of business is I have to get half of my guys out of pits. Fortunately, I've stocked up on rope. Leif the Legbiter is going to go first. He still has to roll to see if he goes berserk, and he manages to do so, but he is in a hole, and so all he can do is throw a rope over the side and climb up. Now, I actually played this incorrectly. Not my own fault. The last time that I got this pit trap thing, see, I couldn't find any rules about it being a place that you can't go into or having to move to a square adjacent or anything like that. But in the meantime, I actually got some copies of the old Deathblow magazine. And in issue 3 of Deathblow, they do have a question and answer section. And in that they say, yes, the pit trap does make a square that you are in, and you can't do anything on the round that you climb out, and you have to climb out into a square adjacent. Okay, so Leif is going to expend his rope. The rope is no longer in his possession. He climbs out into an adjacent square, and we move on to Hundert Luftballoon, but because there is a monster in both of the squares adjacent to this pit trap, he actually can't leave this round. So he actually just has to chill. So we have to go to Naughtiness Maximus, hopefully clear out some room for Hundert to escape. He's going to take out his Fist Spike, and he is going to kill 2 Snotlings. So one of the rules for the Fist Spike is that if you kill an opponent with it, you can advance into the square that they were in. So he kills a Snotling, moves into that square, kills another Snotling now that he's in contact with that guy, moves into his square, and then finally he goes and squishes the last Snotling with a Knee Spike. When I say last, I don't actually mean the last in the room, the last one that Naughtiness Maximus is going to kill this round. There's actually still 4 more, but hey, we got a Chaos Warrior, surely he can deal with them. No, Sir Osis with his 1 attack goes and misses like a jerk. So we go over to the monster phase. We have 4 Snotlings still trying to eat Sir Osis because he definitely deserves it. They have a +3 to hit and +3 to damage. They are going to manage to do 3 points of damage to him. So it is a new round, and wouldn't you know it, we get a power score of 1. Power score of 1, and so we draw another event card, and we get Luthor the Hunchback. Luthor the Hunchback is an interesting one. First off, I absolutely love the model. I'm happy that I have him in my collection. Second off, what he's going to do is he's going to just swing in from the darkness and try to club one of my guys. He's got a strength of 5, which is pretty impressive. He's going to target Sir Osis. He's going to hit, and he's going to cause 2 damage to him. So Sir Osis is getting a little beat up under that armor. Then he has a special rule where I roll a d6. On the roll of a 1, he's just going to stick around and fight like any other monster. On a 2+, he disappears. He just takes off, goes into the shadows, and he just hangs out watching our guys. From then on, anytime there's an unexpected event, he is going to appear again. He's going to zip in just like he did. He's going to make an immediate attack, and then you roll a d6 to see if he stays or goes. So this guy can just plague my warriors for the remainder of the game. So we roll a d6 and sure enough we don't get a 1, and so he melts back into the shadows ready to spring at a later point. Nothing we can do about that, especially considering Naughtiness Maximus fails his Pit Fighter reaction chart again, and so doesn't get to do anything special. So we just have to move on. So first we go to Lief the Legbiter, who's going to move up and kill 2 Snotlings. Hundert has a rope of his own, so he manages to climb out of the pit. Then, batting cleanup, Naughtiness Maximus moves up and kills the last 2 Snotlings. For our troubles, we get an enchanted shield. The enchanted shield is not great. Every time you're hit, you can try to use the shield. On a roll of a d6, on a 5 or 6, you can ignore all the damage, but on a 1, you take an extra d6 as the shield explodes. The problem with magic items like this is that you only really want to use them when you're in trouble, when you're about to take a lot of damage, when you're low on health. So while it can save you, it can also mess you up really badly. And it's only slightly more likely that it'll help you than hurt you. So I don't think I'm ever going to use that. I give it to Hundert Luftballoon. I don't exactly know the interaction between wizards and magic armor. For a couple of the characters, it says directly in their character pack that they can't use magic armor that they collect. Specifically, the Chaos Warrior and the Pit Fighter say that. Of course, the wizard doesn't have a character book, so it never says in the rule book that he can't use magic armor. In the role-playing book, there is a small section under the settlements where you're buying equipment that the wizard is restricted from the armor. Now, it's talking about the armor that you buy from the armor shop, and specifically talking about what restrictions that particular items have when bought by different characters. Long story short, I'm not exactly sure a wizard can or can't have magic armor. The obvious thing to do would be, if the wizard can't use it, to just say on the cards, like it does for a bunch of other things, can only be used by this, this, or this, or can't be used by this. None of them do that. It really wouldn't bother me so much except for the Helm of Alcadizar, which is clearly a piece of armor, and I really like having it on the wizard, especially since I went and painted that model. I thought it was all fine, but then I randomly came across that one sentence in that settlement section, and now I'm not so sure. But moving on, remember that we are currently in a treasure trove, so once all the monsters are defeated, I get to roll a number of d6s, and on a 6 my guys get a treasure card, on a 1 we draw another event card. So I decide that the treasure is worth it, even though I've already gone through a pile of these event cards, so I roll 46. Everyone's going to search this room. It's got so many traps and guards in it, there must be something good here. There isn't. We don't roll a single 6, but we do roll a 1, which means we get another event. So the next round rolls around, we get a power score of 5, but because we rolled a 1 on our search, we draw another card and we get D3 Ogres. And we roll the maximum of 3. So everyone's going to be facing off an Ogre except for Sir Osis. Also, because we got an unexpected event, that means a Luthor springs from the shadows. So the Hunchback swings in again, tries to club Lief on the head. He does manage to hit, but because Lief has that pretty mighty toughness of 7, he doesn't do any damage. We roll a d6. On a 1 he stays, on a 2+ he goes again, disappears into the darkness, and we don't get to fight him. This guy's going to be a real pain. But moving on, the first thing that we need to do is make a fear roll for my heroes, because ogres are fear 5. So that means that we roll a d6 at our battle level, and we need to get over a 5 or else we're going to be -1 to hit these guys. None of my guys pass this test, so we're all going to be -1 to hit. We're all scared of ogres. It is a new combat, so Lief has to make his berserk check again. He's killed lots of stuff by now, so it should be okay, but it's not. We roll a 1, and so he doesn't get to do anything this round. He would normally dish out 1 point of damage to all his friends who are next to him. Fortunately, he's not next to anybody right now, but still, not getting to do anything does not help. Hundert is -1 to hit the ogre because of his staff, -1 to hit him because of fear, so he's only going to hit him on 6, so unsurprisingly, he misses. He's also really hurt, so I go and use the invisibility ring. I'd much rather this ogre beat up Sir Osis than Hundert. Naughtiness Maximus is up next. He goes and rolls another 6 to hit with his fist spike, and must have spiked this ogre in the eye because he does 9 points of damage to him. Anyway, he does another 3 damage with his knee spike. Naughtiness Maximus cannot be stopped. So he has done 12 points of damage to this ogre. He only has 1 hit point left. So we're going to go on to Sir Osis. Sir Osis really wants to get rid of an ogre here, so he's going to use his Chalice of Night, his 1 use for that chalice, and he's going to hit automatically, and he does manage to do that last point of damage. Unfortunately, the death blow doesn't manage to move on to the next ogre, so no damage on him. But still, 1 ogre down, not too bad. In the monster phase, one ogre goes and hits Lief the Legbiter on the head for 2 points of damage. The other one fails to damage Sir Osis at all. We're at the end of the round. I was holding on to some of that power to see if I needed to bring anyone back up from being dead. Turns out I didn't, so Hundert Luftballoon just uses that power to heal himself up 3. So it is a new round and we get a power score of 6, which means that I have to make the arcane knowledge check for Sir Osis. He does in fact roll the 3+, and so I get to draw a random spell and I get Lifebringer. Lifebringer allows me to roll a d6 for all the heroes that I want to. They get to heal that many wounds unless any of them roll a double, in which case they don't heal any. Everyone except Naughtiness Maximus is hurt, so I choose all 3 of them. Fortunately, I don't roll any doubles, so Lief is going to heal 2, Hundert is going to heal 6, and Sir Osis is going to heal 3. That was a really useful spell for him to cast right there. I think Sir Osis might finally have the hang of getting this arcane magic under control. Anyway, we're on to Lief the Legbiter. I kind of wanted him to break his pin and move over to the doorway. He doesn't manage to do so. He only breaks pins on a 6, so it's not real surprising. So he's just stuck fighting that one ogre. He causes 2 points of damage to him, which is fine. Naughtiness Maximus is then going to start off with his knee spike. The idea being I'm going to soften him up with the knee spike and then hopefully I can kill him with the fist spike and move into the square that he's at. Anyway, he causes 3 points of damage with the knee spike. Then he goes and crits with the fist spike, so that's 2d6 plus 3 does 9 points of damage, just punches this ogre in the head and kills him, gets to advance into that square, and then he misses with his other 2 attacks, but still, great job, Naughtiness. He must have fought a lot of ogres in the pit. Sir Osis, of course, then goes and misses, but Hundert is there with a bunch of power still, and he is going to heal Sir Osis all the way up to full. It's the ogre turn again, and so these ogres on a 5+ on a to hit roll, they get to roll 2d6 damage, so 2d6 plus their strength, so that'll put a dent in pretty much anyone. He is still trying to strike Sir Osis, and he manages to bonk the freshly healed Sir Osis down 3 more points of damage. So it's a new round, and we get another 1 for the power score. This room. And we get 3 fanatics for the event. And of course we've got a new unexpected event, so Luthor shows up. Luthor again tries to club Lief the Legbiter on the back of the head, and he does hit him for 3 points of damage and again takes off into the darkness. If I catch that guy, I'm going to murder him so bad. No reaction from Naughtiness Maximus, and we go on to the fanatics. The fanatics are a very confusing card and a very confusing monster. On the 3 fanatics card, it says that they make an initial attack. On the fanatics description in the book, it describes their special ball and chain attack, which is at the end of the monster phase or the move phase, depending on which card or section of the rules that you're looking at. They cause d6 plus 3 damage to every warrior next to them. I think I've played these guys differently every time I've drawn them because I keep reading them and thinking that it means a different thing every time. So this time, how I think it works is they get deployed and they get an initial attack. I'm going to treat that just like a normal, everyday monster attack. So I roll to hit, their strength is 3, so it's d3 plus 6 points of damage, and that's their initial attack. On their turn, I'm going to say they get their normal move, and they're never pinned, so they're always going to move into contact with as many heroes as they can. They're going to make their normal attack, so their weapon skill versus the toughness, all that kind of stuff. And then at the very end, they do an additional d6 plus 3 wounds to everyone that they're still in contact with. That's how I'm going to run it. So anyway, the initial strikes from the fanatics all either miss or don't do any damage. So we move on to the hero phase, and Lief the Legbiter is up first. He is still berserk, and he is just gonna kill all 3 fanatics. He is just not in the mood for dealing with these guys. That leaves Hundert, Naughtiness Maximus, and Sir Osis to gang up on the ogre. The ogre still causes fear. I think Naughtiness Maximus might be getting a little tired, but none of them manage to hit. None of them can come up with that 5+, or in Sir Osis's case 4+, to actually land a strike on the ogre. The ogre, for his part, does manage to hit Sir Osis for 3 points of damage, and we move on. This round, we get a power score of 6. Again, Sir Osis manages to pass his arcane knowledge check, and he casts Ogre Strength on a warrior of my choice. I'm going to choose the guy with 4 attacks around, and that's going to be Naughtiness Maximus. But first, Lief moves up into contact with the doorway. I'm going to explore one of these days, and he manages to cause a mighty 9 points of damage to this ogre. So that Ogre is super hurt, only got 4 points left. Hundert goes and misses, of course, but Naughtiness Maximus with that Ogre strength of his. Ogre versus Ogre, it's a Pit Fighter Ogre that's going to win every time. He kills that guy, advances into the square that the Ogre was because he killed him with his fist spike. Sir Osis just stays where he is because there's not really anywhere useful that he can go anyway. Hundert is going to heal Sir Osis for 1 point of damage. And we get 2 treasure cards, 1 for the Ogres and 1 for the Fanatics. Hundert Luftballoon gets the Finger of Doom scroll. I had to lose that because of a road hazard a while ago and I was real mad about it because it's a great item. It basically gives him another spell. For 6 power, he can cause 6 damage to any monster on the board. Just real good when you absolutely need to do some damage to something somewhere and don't want to take a chance with any dice rolls. Sir Osis gets Pretty Stones, which is a treasure card from the Lair of the Orc Lord. You roll on a random chart to see how much the Pretty Stones are worth, and he does okay. They are worth 100 gold. And we finally get to explore in the exploration phase, and we explore the Torture Chamber, which could have surprised me. I would have sworn I was in the Torture Chamber right now. And if you're curious, here are the 9 cards that we had to deal with in this one room. And you know what? We're not even done. We go on to the next round and we get a power score of 6, which is fine. But it does mean that we have to do Sir Osis's arcane knowledge check and he fails at this round, so he goes stupid. And that's probably fine because my guys are kind of stuck. I mean, Hundert Luftballoon goes second in the round and he's currently trapped behind Naughtiness Maximus. So I take this round to move Naughtiness Maximus away from that little area of traps that Hundert is stuck behind. Hundert heals Sir Osis for another 4 points of damage, and we move on. So we get a power score of 5, and Lief the Legbiter is going to move into that next room next to the doorway, ready to explore. Then I find out that I've got some problems. I can't really move Hundert Luftballoon into the room in a place that I thought was safe. Or at least I can't move him into the room and then not have everyone else be stuck. So I end up putting Hundert in the monster's lair, and I have my other 2 guys just guard him and really just kind of say good luck to Lief. He's got to hold out against whatever monsters are going to be in there for enough time to get my guys enough movement to pile in and hopefully save him. I think my guys have been hit on the head a little bit too much. They're not making great decisions with where they move and how they arrange themselves. We draw an event card for the room and we get 2d6 Skaven. So 6 Skaven jump out from the torture chamber. They surround the Lief and one of them can hang out in that doorway and try to stab Naughtiness Maximus. At least I can use some of the power that I gained to heal up Lief 5 points of damage. He should be okay. If it were big guns or minotaurs, he might have a real problem, but this is alright. I do also incorrectly send a Luthor the Hunchback into my guys. I shouldn't have done this because this isn't an unexpected event. This is a room. We knew there were going to be a bunch of monsters here. He shouldn't have gotten this attack, but still, I do it anyway. Luthor jumps out, knocks Naughtiness Maximus on the head for 7 points of damage, and then disappears again. So that was a lot. It would have been better if I hadn't done that, but what can you do? It's a new round, and we get a power score of 3. Lief goes berserk and kills 1 Skaven, which is a little disappointing. He really needs to pick up the pace if he's going to break through this circle of fur that's trying to eat him. Hundert doesn't want to block Sir Osis or Naughtiness Maximus, so he's going to stay where he is. Naughtiness Maximus is going to try and break his pin to try and move into the room. Unfortunately, he fails to do that. His pin breaking roll is not great either. He does kill the Skaven in front of him. He doesn't move into that square because I want to keep it clear for Sir Osis. Sir Osis moves into the torture chamber to try to help out Lief the Legbiter, only manages to cause 2 points of damage to one of the Skaven though. In the monster phase, the Skaven are still trying to stab the crazed barbarian to death. They only manage to get 2 points of damage through all that armor though. Still, Lief has taken a bunch of damage. We go into a new round and we get a power score of 5. I don't think I want to wait for Hundert to come over and help me out, so Lief is going to use the stone icon of Gamaluk and he's going to heal himself all the way up to the full 16 wounds. Again, Lief only manages to kill 1 Skaven, but Hundert does move into the room and manages to miss the Skaven he's attacking. Naughtiness then moves up and with his 4 attacks also only manages to kill 1 Skaven. These Skaven are kind of dodgy. Sir Osis kills 1 more, leaving just 1 Skaven remaining, which isn't bad, but would have been nice if I could have killed them all off. Hundert goes and heals Naughtiness Maximus for 6 wounds, and the Skaven misses Lief. So it's a new round, we get a power score of 4, and Lief goes and executes that last Skaven to no one's surprise. We get the Amulet of Charadris. It's a Catacombs of Terror magic item. Undead monsters in base-to-base contact with the bearer of the Amulet of Cherry can't regenerate. It's okay. We've got a couple of monsters like that, skeletons and tomb guardians and stuff. We give that to Naughtiness Maximus. Hundert also heals Naughtiness back to full hit points, so we don't have to worry about him being unfairly disadvantaged because of that sneaky illegal Luthor attack, and we explore the stairway in the exploration phase. New round, power score of 3, and we move into the stairway. Keep on going on. We get a power score of 3 again. We move up to the doorway and we explore another passageway. Power score of 3 again, and we move into the passageway. Apparently I forgot to write notes for this next turn, but we don't get an unexpected event. We move up and we explore the Well of Doom. New round, power score of 5. We move into the Well of Doom, and Sir Osis is healed up to full. This, of course, is a room, so we have to draw an event card, and we get 2d6 giant rats. We end up with 6 giant rats. We're definitely ended up in the Skaven end of this dungeon. Moving on to the round, we get a power score of 3. Leif fails his Berserk roll again, which means he gets no attacks, and Hundert and Naughtiness Maximus both take 1 point of damage. Hundert is using his staff, so he's next in the order, and he goes and misses the rat in front of him. My Pit Fighter is next. He's going to go and kill 1 rat with his fist spike and 1 with his knee spike. And Sir Osis, because he is bad at being a Chaos Warrior, only manages to wound a rat. In the monster phase, the rats attack, I've got 2 rats attacking Lief the Legbiter. So when a rat attacks, it gets 2d6 damage dice, which can do a lot of damage. But then they roll a d6, and on a 3+, they go and die during the attack. So the 2 rats fighting Leif cause 4 points of damage to him, which is a lot, but one of them goes and dies in the process. One hits Sir Osis for 1 point of damage, but I guess because the Chaos Warrior armor is really spiky, they both go and die during those attacks. So we've only got 1 rat left. Next round, we have a power score of 3. Leif goes Berserk again, finishes off that last rat. The rest of the warriors go and move up to the doorway, ready to explore. We draw our treasure card. We get the Orb of Might, which is kind of cool. It goes to the wizard, and it just stores a little bit extra power for him. We roll up 3 more power. So between his power store, his staff, and his Orb of Might, he now has 10 power he can draw on. In the exploration phase, we find another passageway. New round, we move into said passageway, and Lief the Legbiter is healed all the way up to full. Again, when we get to this fire chasm, it's going to be important that my guys are healthy when we go and try and attack this dragon, because if we fail, we're going to take 46 damage. New round, and we get a power score of 6. Sir Osis passed his arcane knowledge check, and he casts Shield on Hundert, because why not? We move up to the doorway, and we explore the fire chasm. This is it, the last room of the dungeon. We've found our objective room. So, next round comes about, and we get another power score of 6. Sir Osis decides that we're going to succeed in this mission or we're going to die trying, so we make sure no one runs away. He's going to cast Pit of Despair directly behind us. That creates a 2x2 block of impassable, bottomless pit. Anyway, I don't want to fill up the objective room with anything like this, and maybe if it's in this position, it'll keep the area from filling up too much with monsters. I don't know. Sir Osis might be insane. Hundert uses some of that 6 power to heal himself up to full. We go and move into the fire chasm, and we roll on the objective room monster chart. I believe we roll a 3, which means that we get 1 Minotaur, 6 Skaven, and 7 giant rats. I want to deal with the Minotaur right away, so he goes right there in front. Sadly, he is attacking my Wizard Hundert Luftballoon. I'd rather not deal with the 2d6 damage of the giant rats and the Minotaur, so I go and put the Skaven in next, and the giant rats go in behind. So it's a fresh round, ready to start this combat. We get a power score of 1. The monsters aren't done with us yet. We draw our event card and we get d6 Night Goblin archers and 1 fanatic. The archers, the furthest they can get away from us and still be able to see us is back at the other end of the fire chasm. And of course the fanatic just has to show up right next to one of our guys. Since it's an unexpected event, he can be in a room adjacent to us, so he shows up behind us. I guess he climbed out of that pit that Sir Osis made. Unlike the card for the 3 fanatics, it doesn't say that this one gives the fanatics an immediate attack. Naughtiness Maximus also rolls on his Pit Fighter reaction chart and doesn't get any results, so again, he doesn't do anything. But Luthor, remember Luthor? He shows up. Fortunately, this time he misses Sir Osis, but he also doesn't stick around. He doesn't like the way that these fights are going, so he takes off again. Okay, finally over to the warriors. We're going to start off with Leif the Legbiter, who does manage to go berserk. He is going to hit the Minotaur twice for a total of 6 points of damage. Naughtiness Maximus is up next. He is going to use his Chalice of Vigor, which means for the remainder of this combat, any of my warriors rolling a 6 to hit will add D3 damage. He is also going to use his Amulet of Power this round because he wants to beat up a bunch of guys and hopefully put some damage on that Minotaur. The Amulet of Power, he doesn't roll a 1, so he adds +2 to his strength and it doesn't explode, which is always nice. Before Naughtiness Maximus actually gets to make his attacks, it's Hundert's turn, who of course goes and misses the Minotaur. Now it's Naughtiness Maximus's turn. He needs to punch away over to the Minotaur, so he's got to kill these Skaven and advance into their squares. So his first attack goes and misses. His second attack goes and kills a Skaven, which is not surprising, so he goes and advances into his square. Now he's in contact with the Minotaur, and he goes and misses twice. So he misses with his last fist spike attack and with his knee spike. We are over to Sir Osis. Sir Osis doesn't really like that fanatic behind him whirling around, so he goes and kills that guy. Finally, Hundert really doesn't like this Minotaur bearing down on him, so he's going to start burning some of his magic items. He's going to use his Death Stone to try and cast Finger of Doom. He manages to roll the 3+ for the Death Stone, so now he can cast Finger of Doom with no power, and that's going to cause a direct 6 points of damage to the Minotaur. We only have 1 power because the power score is 1 because of that unexpected event. But we still have a bunch of power in reserve, so I'm going to use some of that. I'm going to take a chance here. I want to kill off that Minotaur. He only has 3 health remaining, so I'm going to use 3 of my stored power to cast Lightning Bolt. So that's 2d6 damage subtracted by toughness and armor. So I need to go get an average score of 7 in order to kill this guy, and Hundert manages to do it. So that's a nice big chunk of change, nice trophy to take to his wizard's tower, and of course he doesn't have to deal with a blood-greedy monster bludgeoning him into a pancake. So on to the monster phase, and we go to the Skaven. Hundert is hit, but the Skaven doesn't cause any damage. Leif is hit for 2 points of damage. Sir Osis is hit for 3. Naughtiness Maximus is missed, and then it's time for the Night Goblins to shoot their bows. The only one hit is Naughtiness, who is hit for 2 points of damage. So that's definitely a fair bit of damage spread around amongst my guys, but we're doing all right. So it's a new round, and we get a power score of 6, which is fantastic. Even better, Sir Osis manages to pass his Arcane Knowledge roll and gets to cast Healing Hands, which is just going to give 1 point of health back to all my guys. Leif the Legbiter is up, and he goes and kills 1 Skaven. Hundert misses the Skaven in front of him, but Naughtiness Maximus manages to kill 2. Sir Osis manages to contribute by killing another Skaven, which means there's only 1 Skaven left alive on the bridge who is blocking all those giant rats. He doesn't go and cause any damage to Naughtiness Maximus, neither do the Night Goblin archers, and so we're on to the next round. So we get a power score of 3, and Leif moves up and kills the Skaven on the bridge. This puts us in kind of a weird position, because you have to cross the bridge all in like one thing. It costs us 2 squares of movement, and currently there's people on the bridge. So as far as I know, I can't actually get over to the other side. I also can't move partway onto the bridge to attack the people right there. So I'm a little stuck. I don't have any ranged weapons to speak of, so my guys just kind of have to hang out and wait for them to come across one at a time and kill them that way. I'm not really looking forward to this because that could take a really long time and leaves me vulnerable to more unexpected events. It's just not ideal. So Hundert Luftballoon just uses the spell Confuse to take away the attack on that one lead giant rat, and we just kind of take positions on the other side of the bridge. So in the monster phase, that one giant rat just moves up, the rest kind of shuffle in behind him. The giant rat can't attack, so we go over to the Night Goblins. Now these Night Goblin bows are kind of terrible. They only hit on a 5+, and they only do d6 plus 1 points of damage. Nonetheless, they still manage to pick 1 point of damage off of Sir Osis and 1 off of Hundert, so they're actually doing pretty well. It's a new round, and we get a power score of 5. I don't really like how this looks. I think it's going to take too long, so Hundert is going to use some of that power to blast one of those rats with a lightning bolt. Leif misses the giant rat right in front of him, but Naughtiness Maximus manages to kill it, and that's pretty much all we can do. Now we go on to the monster phase, and now I realize that it's really not as bad as I thought because I forgot about the Death Leap rule. So these giant rats might take care of themselves. The first giant rat moves up, hits Leif the Legbiter, causes no damage because of course Leif the Legbiter is just a tough barbarian, and then we roll a 3+ and he just dies in the attack, impales himself on Leif's sword. So the next rat moves up and it's time for Naughtiness Maximus to get a hit, hits him for 5 points of damage but also dies. So these guys are just streaming forward, getting themselves killed, falling off into the fire chasm and leaving room for the next one to come up and do the same. Third rat moves up, misses Leif the Legbiter, and goes and dies himself. And then the fourth rat comes up, misses Naughtiness Maximus, but goes and survives. That was not terrible. The Night Goblins open fire. Sir Osis is hit for 1 point of damage, which is pretty good. That goblin had to roll a 6 on the damage die in order to do that. The rest of them are unhurt. And we move on to the next round, and it's a power score of 3, and you can bet I'm not going to confuse any more giant rats because I want them to go and kill themselves. Instead, I'm going to use another one of my reserve power score, and I'm going to cast Lightning Bolt to kill the far giant rat. So now Leif just has to go and kill that one giant rat, which he promptly does, and now we have an empty bridge that we can move across. We are almost there. It's Hundert's turn next, but he is not in a position to actually move across the bridge right now. So we go on to Naughtiness Maximus. So I'm nervous about this. Naughtiness Maximus has to cross the bridge, and to do so safely, he has to roll a 3+. If he fails, he has to roll on a chart to see what happens, one of which is that he just dies. He also has no reroll, so there's nothing I can do about a bad roll, and sure enough, he goes and fails. This could be bad. I go and I roll on the chart, and I roll the one that gives him D6 damage, which is also not great because he has 6 health remaining. I'm not sure how it works if he goes and perishes himself. I'm not sure if he's going to be in a position for my people to heal him. Probably, right? It doesn't matter. I roll 5 points of damage, which is still a lot. He's down to just 1 health. He's going to have to get healed up before we try and strike this statue. But he does make it to the other side. Scorched, but still alive. Fortunately, he has a whole brewery's worth of heal-up potions, so he's going to drink 1 for 4 points of health back and another for 5 points of health back. So they only run out on a score of a 1, so he still keeps those. Even better, he is now in contact with a goblin, so he can use his fist spike, kills the goblin, moves up into that goblin spot, kills the next goblin, moves up into that goblin spot, and kills the last one, so he just clears out that whole row. Sir Osis is up next. He successfully crosses the bridge and unsuccessfully attacks the goblin. The goblins, for their part, completely go and miss my warriors. It is a new round and we get a power score of 4. So Leif is going to go up first and he is going to attempt to cross the bridge, and he also goes and fails. Leif does have a lucky charm. He can re-roll this, but I really want to keep that lucky charm to use when trying to attack that dragon statue, so I don't go and use it. Now obviously if I go and roll a 1 on this chart, I am going to, but for right now, we'll just see what happens. Well, when he's crossing the bridge, something goes wrong. The bridge starts swinging violently. No one else can cross the bridge this round, and I have to dive back to one of the sides. I roll randomly, and I find out that I end up on the near side. So he doesn't manage to cross the bridge. Hundert can't cross the bridge, and we got to try this one more round. Hundert moves up a little bit, waiting for the bridge to stop swinging around so much. Naughtiness moves over to Sir Osis' side and kills the 2 goblins over there. You're welcome. Sir Osis moves to Naughtiness Maximus' side, and we both tuck ourselves in that corner just in case bad guys swarm out. We don't want to get surrounded. But we have a new round and we get a power score of 5, so no monsters spring out. Leif is up and it is time for him to cross the bridge, which this time he does so successfully. Finds out which is the bad step. Well, my guys are all going to be in contact with the idol this round, so I might as well start swinging. So he's going to take out that special magic sword and go and strike this dragon statue. I still have my lucky charm for a reroll if it's available. I'm still not sure if I fail, if I just don't take 46 damage immediately and lose. But we roll the die and we get a 6. So we don't need the reroll. We just go and destroy this idol. The demon, the rival demon from some other bad guy tribe is destroyed. Sent back to the warp, and we are big heroes. So another successful adventure for the Louts of Chaos. As our reward, Sir Osis gets 600 gold, Naughtiness Maximus also gets 600, Hundert gets 300, and Leif the Legbiter gets 500. Also, because we fought a group of monsters in the objective room, we got a random event and we had to fight off those D6 Night Goblin archers and the fanatic, we get to roll on the objective room treasure chart. Again, the rules for this are a little bit confusing depending on what section of the book you read. It tells you to do different things, but one of the sections says that when you are supposed to draw a treasure card in the objective room, you can instead roll on the objective room treasure chart, so that is what we do. And we get a Frost Blade, so this is a one-use item that'll instantly kill a monster once per adventure. Pretty good. I'm going to give it to Leif the Legbiter, because why not have 3 magic swords? And we're done. We got a pile of treasure and we got a pile of money. We need to go and spend it. I want to go up to level 2. We're going to take off and try to go to a city. And of course, the reason being 3 of my guys need to find a special location in order to go up a level. A city gives us an extra dice to try and find one of those locations, but we have to survive 6 road hazards to get there. So rolling up, the first one we get is number 53, Double Back, which means that we get lost, turned around, and we end up right where we started from. Fortunately, this was our first roll, so we don't really lose out on too much by doing that. Next roll is a double 1, Massacre. Fortunately, not our massacre. We actually end up finding some other people that have been massacred, and one of our guys finds out it was some of their friends, family, their old village, something like that. Turns out it was Leif. So Leif comes upon his old village and sees that a bunch of his buddies were killed by beastmen. We roll on a random chart and see which monsters did the deed. Well, it was beastmen this time, so now Leif hates beastmen. That's pretty good. I'd like having those rerolls to hit for Leif the Legbiter. I might have to go and paint some beastmen and get those guys in the event cards. Next roll is 51, Uneventful Week. So we go on to week 3, which is also an uneventful week. I mean, technically it's week 4, but anyway, you get it. We lost a week with the double back. Speaking of losing a week, our next roll is 43, which basically just means that some villagers ask us for help, and of course we do, because we're here to help out our fellow Norskins. So we have to spend an extra week just kind of messing around, and we move on. The next roll is 14, which is the Quake. So there's a couple of options that we can do here. I decided to burn another rope, my last rope, in order to not have to go back or lose any time or anything like that. When I get to the city, I'm going to have to buy some more ropes. I didn't realize this when I exchanged my Levitate spell, but it's real possible to go through a bunch of them in the course of one adventure. I fell into 2 pits this game, and if I didn't have 2 ropes, I would have been stuck. But moving on, we go on to number 33, which is an uneventful week, and then finally we get number 51, which is an uneventful week. We actually get to a city. So we show up at the gates of Middenheim, ready to become battle level 2 warriors. So knowing what the settlement events are like, I don't want to take a chance rolling any dice and getting thrown out of town, so we are immediately going to go and try and find people to train us. Leif doesn't need to make any special rolls, so he goes, he spends his money, he's going to get +1 toughness. Ugh, that makes him toughness 8, that's insane. He's going to get 1 luck, so he's got a reroll, so 2 rerolls now. He gains +5 wounds, and he gains the skill Duckback. Duckback just gives him +1 to his escape from pinning rolls. It's not bad. He fails those a lot. Hundert shows up in town, and the first thing that he does, this doesn't actually take a day to do it, is that he has 2 investments. These are random settlement events. He can see how he's doing as far as these things go. He ends up losing his investment and 250 gold on the first roll, and then gaining 200 gold with the second one. So the net result is that he's just down an investment and down 50 gold, so that's not fantastic. The good news is that he does manage to find the Wizards Guild. So he is going to gain 6 power, 3 wounds, 1 initiative, and 1 willpower, and he is going to roll 2 dice to find out what power level spells he can pick up. He rolls a 1 and a 5, so he's going to pick up Cure Small Wounds, which is fantastic. It's a power level 1 spell, so if I have 1 power, I can cast it. So I'm always going to be able to bring someone back to life with this. It's only going to heal 1 point of damage on 1 warrior, but that's all you need to keep someone from dying. And the other spell he picks up is Freeze, which is definitely the best attack spell in the starting game. You spend 5 power and you roll a d6, and that number of monsters takes that amount of damage. It's a real good room clearing spell. Also, from now on, he adds 1 to the power score. So the minimum power he's going to get is always going to be 1, because a 1 will just always be a 1, but he can go up to 7, so it's going to be real nice. Next, we go over to Naughtiness Maximus, and he finds his fighting school, so it's looking good so far. When he shows up to a fighting school, he has to roll 2d6 and consult a chart to see what reaction they have when he gets there. He can learn special maneuvers, he can get some good stuff. I roll a double 6, which I'm really excited about, and of course he adds a +1 to that, because of course he is a pit fighter, so we get a 13. Can't wait to see what that is. Well, it's not great. 13 means that he's been recognized by his old owners, and they go and grab him and beat him up and force me to give over half my gold. Not what you want right before you need to pay a bunch of cash to level up. The good news is that half my gold is 2,166, which means that I still have the 2,000 available to spend on training. Training is a little weird for pit fighters. You just get 8 advancement points and a number of things that you can buy with those points. I also get D6 wounds. I roll the maximum of 6 wounds, which is real nice. I was about to go with +1 strength and +1 toughness. The strength is kind of a no-brainer because he's got so many attacks. Anything that increases that is going to give you a lot of benefit. And he's pretty lightly armored, so the +1 toughness is pretty good. But then I see that for 6 advancement points, he can get +1 damage dice. That's crazy. On every attack, being able to roll 2d6 damage dice for only 6 advancement points? Not only that, you can only advance one thing once each time you level up, but there doesn't seem to be any maximums. That seems crazy to me. I feel like there should be some kind of maximums. It doesn't make much sense that you can be like a toughness 10 pit fighter or anything like that, or be rolling 10 damage dice with every attack. Doesn't matter for now, but I think it's too good to pass up. I'm going to add +1 damage dice and +1 weapon skill. Weapon skill is nice because it affects both my attack rolls and the defense as far as that affects the numbers that monsters need to attack me. So I'm very happy. Not only that, I have just enough money to buy my last knee spike. I lost a knee spike in a tornado a while ago. I managed to roll enough to find it at the armory, and so I picked that up. And so now I've got my full complement of offensive equipment for this guy. Real good news. So now over to Sir Osis. Sir Osis this time manages to find the Chaos Temple, doesn't get kicked out in the process of doing it. You also have to make a dice roll to see if you get kicked out just for being a Chaos Warrior. Fortunately, I don't have any obvious Chaos attributes, so that doesn't come into effect. The first thing you do when you wander into a Chaos Temple is you have to roll on a chart to see what happens. I get mutated a little bit. I have to pick one of my attributes. I have to lose that, and I have to roll another one randomly. I choose to lose Arcane Knowledge. Although it did pretty well for me this game, it generally isn't great. So I drop that, and I have to roll on the chart. There are some bad ones on here, but I get Fast. Fast is kind of cool. Fast is +1 initiative and +1 movement, bringing up to movement 5. I'll definitely take it. So then I spend my money to do my training, and I roll 3 times on the chart to see what happens to me as the Chaos Gods give gifts and curses. And I roll 3 attributes, 2 characteristics, and a Chaos artifact. So for my Chaos attributes, I go and roll Psychotic Warrior, Vampiric, and Agility. Those all sound pretty good, but when I do that, I think, hey, wait a minute, isn't there a thing about how many Chaos attributes you have affecting a dice roll to see what happens, and maybe you wander off into the Northern Waste to become a Chaos spawn or join the armies of Chaos? And yeah, sure enough. So after training, after all your attributes and all that kind of thing, you add them all up, and for every attribute you have over double your level, so I'm going up to level 2, so every one I have over the number 4, and now I have 5 because I started with 2 and I just gained 3, I have to roll a d6. On a 2+, you're cool. On a 1+, you wander off and you're not going to be taking part in any more adventures. Guess what I do? Go ahead. Guess what I do? I roll a 1. So this is messing with me. I'm having a hard time processing this. I'm looking through the Mark of Chaos. I'm trying to find out if I can use that to re-roll this dice roll. No, it only affects adventures. This is between adventures right now. I look up the stuff I get. There's nothing that can affect this. Sir Osis is inspired by the Chaos Gods and just takes off. We're all supposed to meet in the tavern in a week's time, and Sir Osis never shows up. He's gone off to make fortune and glory in the name of Tzeentch. That's kind of a bummer. On the one hand, he wasn't our best character. For a Chaos Warrior, he didn't really get the best set of stats and equipment. He wasn't a very good spellcaster, he wasn't a very good warrior. He didn't take a lot of magic items with him because he can't use any. But still, Sir Osis, best of luck to you. You will be missed. Sad days. But what can we do? We gotta move on. I don't want to spend too much more time in town because the more time I spend here, the more bad things happen. So the first thing I'm going to do is everyone's going to go to the general store and we're going to try and buy in some rope. Naughtiness Maximus is going to be first up. He does manage to buy the rope. Unfortunately for his settlement event, he gets drugged, but he ends up being okay. Hundert goes next. He's going to go to the general store. He buys some rope, but then for his settlement event, he gets sick and has to spend the next 2 days just recovering. So we can't leave for 2 days, which is too bad because I kind of wanted to. At least Hundert is done. He doesn't have to roll any more settlement events as he just recuperates. He does have to spend a little extra money though. So now we go on to Lief the Legbiter. He goes to the general store, and even though I'm rolling 3d6 and I only have to get a 5, he manages to not find rope. He rolls a 2 and 2 1s, so that's too bad. Also, someone shows up on the street and says he owes him money, and so I have to pay him 40 gold. Okay, fine. Lief actually still has a bunch of cash, and I would like to go and buy some stuff at the armor. I'd like to buy some light armor, because toughness 8 isn't enough. I want to go up to toughness 9. He manages to find it. Part of the reason I wanted to do this now is because you've got a much better chance of finding these items in a city. So he finds light armor, spends his money. His settlement event for this next day, though, is Fooled. So that means that something that you bought in town turns out to be fake, and you got to take it off your character sheet. If I had bought the rope, it would have been fake rope and that would have been fine. But instead, the only thing that I bought is this light armor, which means that I'm out 1,000 gold because someone sold me yarn mail or something. So that isn't great. I should have just bought something, anything, provisions, bandages, whatever, door spikes at the general store because this has burned me before. I knew this was a possibility. I should have bought something, but I was so annoyed that I couldn't find rope that I couldn't even bring myself to do it. What a terrible town. General stores that run out of rope, armors that send you fake armor. Middenheim sucks. Lief still has to spend 1 more day here because Hundert is still sick. I don't send him anywhere, and he finds a rampaging bull, which is going down the middle of the street. Well, he tries to stop it, doesn't manage to do so. It just runs him over. Fortunately, nothing permanently bad happens in that case. I do have to spend all my living expenses, which, by the way, is double because I have a pet dog. But that's it for Lief the Legbiter. Naughtiness Maximus also spent an extra 2 days because Hundert is sick. That's bad news because he is also out of money. He has a pet dog. He only has like 6 gold left, which is how much it takes to stay 1 day there. You don't really have an option of leaving early. You have to sell equipment to pay for your living expenses. So I end up selling the Amulet of Charadris. That's the amulet that prevents undead monsters from regenerating when they're next to you. It's too bad, but I can definitely do without it. So now I've got some cash. I don't really have anything else to spend it on. I've already been to the Pit Fighter Guild. I can't go back there. So I'm just going to spend the next 2 days and hopefully nothing bad will happen. If something does, I get into an accident. It means I can't go into any more stores for the next 4 days, but I also don't have to roll on settlement events. So I just got to spend another 2 days, another 12 gold, sitting in the inn, recovering from my accident, feeding my dog, and that's it. And there it is. That's the game. That is level 1 completed. We are a level 2 group of Louts of Chaos. Well, maybe not level 2 completely. We do have to pick up a new warrior who's going to replace our dearly departed Sir Osis. Didn't die. He's out there somewhere, but Archaon called him back to the home front or something like that, and we got to get a new guy. I could just get another Chaos Warrior. This is the Louts of Chaos. We should fit in with that theme. I don't think I'm going to, even though you can definitely play 2 different Chaos Warriors, and depending on the attributes and artifacts that you get, they can end up being very different. I think I'm going to go with something else. So stay tuned for that. The next adventure, I think I'm going to use the Lair of the Orc Lord, because the level 2 monster chart on that, I have most of the models for. I'm a little short for the monsters on level 2 in the basic roleplay book Monster 2 level chart. So stay tuned for that. Leave a comment below if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, and I will see you on the next one.